Hey guys, so another concept we want to discuss with you today is taxes. Now let me just make this very, very clear. I'm not a CPA, so I'm not giving tax advice, but we're going to talk about from a conceptual standpoint what we need to be paying attention to with taxes as it pertains to planning for our retirement. Now for those in the audience who are, let's say, under 60 years old, there's always a concern about where will taxes be going, because the goal in retirement, most people conceptually say, well, I'm going to retire with less income, however, I'll have less of a taxable burden, and so it won't be a concern. And here's what we're seeing from the people we've talked to and the professionals we've worked with. What's happening is that most people are retiring with most of their assets inside of a 401k or an IRA, which is a great place to have some money if that's the goal you're trying to achieve. However, what we know is inside of those vehicles, every dollar you take out when you reach the distribution phase of your life will be fully taxable. Now, here's why that's a concern for us from a financial planning standpoint. If we look at the demographics of our country, I think we can all agree right now that we have some people in Washington who are spending like drunken sailors. And I once actually had a client tell me, well, Nico, it's not fair to call them drunken sailors, they're drunken pirates. Because not only are they taking our money, then they're spending it. So we've got some people who are making some pretty bad decisions for us, and it's going to impact where our country goes financially over the next 2 decades. Here's why I point that out. The research has shown that the debt that we're accumulating as a country is going to be larger than we can pay off if we don't raise taxes. To balance the budget over the next 2 decades will require some tough decisions by those in Washington, and I'm grateful that I don't have to be one of them. But what we're going to see from a strictly demographic standpoint is we have some shifting demographics. So for example, we've got the baby boomer generation, and there are more people retiring every single day than there are the newer, younger generations entering the workforce. So let's think of it just conceptually for a moment. If we have on average about 15,000 baby boomers retiring every single day, and we don't have 15,000 people entering the workforce every single day, and those baby boomers are drawing from Social Security or Medicare or other social systems that we have in place to help them out while they retire, well, the backbone of those, what are called entitlement programs, the backbone of those comes from workers paying back into the system in order to keep it afloat and maintain it. Now, if we have more people retiring and leaving the workforce than we have entering, what that means is we have more people drawing from the system over the course of maybe 15 or 20 or 25 years, and we don't have enough workers going into the system over that same period of time. What that does is it creates a deficit, and a deficit means that we have more bills than we have the money to pay. So what we see from a financial planning standpoint is over time, the studies have shown statistically, the only way we can balance the budget over the next 20 years is either to decrease federal spending dramatically, or we have to increase taxes. And what we're hearing from a lot of the clients we work with and the CPAs that they are working with as well is that we have people who are leaving the workforce and they're retiring. And they're excited about it. And maybe they are retiring on a lower income than they were used to. However, their house is paid off, their kids have moved out, and they don't really have a lot of debt. So what's happening is, although they're having a lower income than they were used to when they were working, they have less deductions to offset that income. And it's creating this tax trap in retirement where every dollar they have to live off of, whether it's an IRA, a 401k, or a pension, for example, all of those vehicles are fully taxable. And if we don't have deductions to lower the taxable burden, we could retire with a lower income and a higher tax bill than we actually might have while we're working. So one of the things that we really focus on as a firm is helping people put money aside in tax-free specific places. Because the thought process there is, here's a great example, if I'm a farmer, the question that I'm always going to have to ask myself is, would I rather pay taxes on the seeds that I plant and pay it now, or would I rather pay taxes on the harvest when I reap it? And the reality is the tax burden that I deal with on the seeds will most likely be lower than the tax burden on the harvest once it's fully come to fruition. So one of the things that we really work with is to help people understand that maybe we should be focusing on places to put our money so that we can avoid the tax burden later on and generate what we call tax-free income streams in retirement. There's a lot of ways to do this. Some are more safe than others, some work better than others, and each one's a little bit different for each person. But what we can see is the trend in the shifting demographics, and if we're going to stay ahead of the curve, and what we're seeing is that savvy investors are adapting to changing times. So if we're going to stay ahead of that curve, we need to make sure that we know that what we put aside for our future when we retire is ours. and we're not going to have to give most of it away to Uncle Sam.